Hi guys, here we are at Battle Abbey. Now the reason we're here is I'm going to do a monologue today about the three battles of 1066. The Battle of Fulford Gate, Stamford Bridge and finally the Battle of Hastings. And I call it Conqueror Bill. Let's give it a go. It was after the death of Edward, the confessor and childless king, and when Harold got crowned and brother was found to be kissing the Viking ring. He was exiled from England for causing unrest, and Tostig, his brother, he wanted redress. He turned coat with the Vikings, invading the north. 300 longboats they took up to York. At the Battle of Fulford, the Vikings fought well, and the city of York to Hardrada then fell. But the earls in the north made a hasty retreat, and got word back to Harold of their army's defeat. He marched up from London, he marched day and night, and by the 5th day they were ready to fight. It was at Stamford Bridge where the battle took place, and with the Vikings in sight, now they gathered some pace. But right on the bridge, they were stopped in their tracks. A bloody great Viking with a bloody great axe. He was swinging it around right over his head, and when they took stock of their count, over 40 were dead. So one of the lads, he had an idea. They sent a bloke underneath on a raft with a spear. He positioned himself right under that swine and thrust up that spear where the sun doesn't shine. And then over the bridge they marched with their flag, right over their dead, and the Viking kebab. They charged at those Vikings, broke right through their wall, and 100 by 100 those Vikings would fall. The fighting ferocious, Hardrada soon dead. Some say Harold killed Tostig and chopped off his head. Those Norsemen then slaughtered, there were bodies piled high, and by the end of the battle, 10,000 would die. And from the 300 boats in which they'd arrived, 24 went back, with the few who'd survived. Harold victorious, though thousands he'd lost, but he wouldn't have time to weigh up the cost. Within 3 days, and to his frustration, news was received of a Norman invasion. They came over the channel while he was away, and landed an army at Pevensey Bay, and then marched on to Hastings, and there they would wait for Harold's arrival and impending fate. They wouldn't wait long for Harold's return, and while they were waiting, they pillaged and burned. Harold was furious. He rallied his men, and they marched back south to do battle again. It was at Senlac Hill where the battle was fought, and a lesson in warfare the Saxons there taught. They'd chosen the high ground and formed a great shield wall, but the Normans had their archers. They also had de Gaulle. First they fired their arrows, and then they charged on foot, but that wall of Harold's held, though 1 or 2 were cut. The cavalry then they charged, straight at that Saxon wall, but that wall was so strong, even their dead they couldn't fall. The fighting now was even. Harold's wall had held, and the Saxons matched the Normans in the amount of men they'd felled. The battle raged all day. They would soon run out of light, but that fighting was so fierce, there was still no end in sight. But then a rumour it was spawned, and it very quickly spread, that Duke William he had fallen, and now the Duke was dead. Well, the Normans turned around, the Saxons then gave chase, but the Duke then he rode forth and revealed his Norman face. The tables now were turned, and the Normans turned around. They cut those Saxons off and chopped them to the ground. Now that Duke he was canny, and he knew the art of war. 2 more feigned retreats, and he doubled up his score. Harold's wall now weakened, his housecarls mostly gone, but those Normans they kept charging, it wouldn't hold for long. But then their archers fired more arrows high into the sky, and in one final twist of fate, one found Harold's eye. The king now mortally wounded, his army now were beat. Quickly now they turned their backs and made good use of their feet. The Normans they ran after and hacked them as they fled, and any as was wounded would soon be rendered dead. They ran them through the woods, over the fields and streams. You could hear the sound of clashing steel amidst those deathly screams. Those Saxons they fought bravely, but they fell for the Norman tricks and lost that famous battle in 1066. And it was on that day, down at Senlac Hill, when William, the bastard, became Conqueror Bill, the bastard. Thank you, Conqueror Bill.